Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Accepting Reality. I'm alongside Jake as usual. Jake, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Oh, are you practicing for when Russia takes over?
I noticed my voice was. I'm trying to lower my voice a little bit
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wish
on
I
the
could.
podcast.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
who's our content director?
Do we have a content director? I thought that was just me and you.
Hmm.
Do
Okay,
we
well,
need
I
to
guess we
post a
don't.
job listing?
Yeah, I don't what's in the budget?
I don't know. Lunch every now and then.
I'm sorry. What do you do for a living?
I'm an accountant.
Okay, and you don't know the budget. All right, that's all
Yeah,
right. Maybe
yeah,
we'll post something. We'll post something.
yeah. We'll post something. Find us on LinkedIn. No, just kidding. All right. So we don't really have a set list of things, but I think there's more than enough topics to talk about, and we'll spiral into something good. So, first thing that I saw, monkeypox. You ready? Are you ready for this? Pandemic 2.0. We're going to level two. It's like a video game. You beat the first level, and then you got to use your experience points and your skills to get through the second level. That's you ready for this one?
Hold on. I'm gonna look this up. Monkey. No, not how to find a monkey for hire. Monkey
What?
pox. That's what Google popped up. Like where to find a monkey.
What? A
Monkey
zoo.
pox. Oh, I guess like to rent or something for like a party. All
You
right,
just
where
rent
is
out
it?
monkeys.
Monkeypox. Here it is. It's a rare disease similar to smallpox caused by the monkeypox virus. It's found mostly in areas of Africa, but has been seen in other areas around the world. It causes flu-like symptoms such as fever and chills, and a rash develops within a few days. It says there's no proven treatment, but it usually goes away on its own.
Okay.
So let's see. The
I love
Congo, Dominican
go.
Republic.
I love how it says, in the first sentence it said a serious disease, but then it says it goes away on its own. So would that really make it serious? You know what I
Well,
mean? Like,
rare. Yeah,
oh,
rare.
okay. I thought you said serious. I thought maybe I've seen somewhere else that calls it like a serious illness. But if it's a serious illness, usually those things don't just go away on their own, you know?
Well, let's see. It says here the number of cases in Africa has been increasing. Smallpox and monkeypox are caused by similar viruses. So when people are vaccinated against smallpox, it also protected them from getting monkeypox.
We just
Since
found our next vaccine push.
let's see, I'm trying to think. Signs and symptoms. Okay, 1 to 3 days, the rash will appear. Now it's spread when you come into contact with an animal or a person infected with the virus.
Yeah,
How is it?
I actually saw that it's actually like social distancing might actually work because you need to actually get like the bodily fluids of any way on your skin. So like if you
Yeah.
actually get near them or the animal, you can't get it. Like it's not airborne like COVID was from the very beginning. Remember when they said you couldn't get COVID unless like you like touch them? Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Right.
that was a big freaking lie. Um
It says it is milder than smallpox, but it can still be fatal. Monkeypox causes death in up to 10% of cases,
I'd like to see all
which,
the caveats for a 10% death rate
I mean, okay, that's interesting.
because that's
Monkeypox. Desire to eat bananas. That's not a symptom, but it may be. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that. Now, wait. What was that thing that happened in Pennsylvania a few months ago? Where wasn't it monkeys
Oh,
got?
yes, the CDC was transporting lab monkeys and God knows what they injected them with, and the truck got into an accident, and then the monkeys started running all over the highway, and then some woman
Got
tried
bit,
to
right?
be no, I she just got spit on. Like
Oh,
monkey just, I guess monkeys spit on you as a way of like repelling people because she tried
okay.
to lure, like get it back to the cage and it spit on, and then she went to the emergency room because she was like coughing and had a headache, and
What
she
happened to
tested
her?
negative. I have seen nothing since that article where this woman is now, she was in the hospital, but I guess maybe she went home. I saw in the article, but Yeah, she just unknown illness is what they diagnosed her with. Very good diagnosis. Um,
Maybe she had monkeypox.
well, don't you? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know. I think the funny thing is that it's now so serious that we have to, like, it's been around for a while in Africa, but why it's all of a sudden now a topic of discussion? And it's not that talked about. Like, I don't really I just see maybe one article in the last few days about it, but I just think it's funny how it's just
Yeah.
another virus.
Yeah. I mean, and also, I think it's kind of funny um, that the WHO just started a pandemic treaty conference
Uh-huh.
that President Biden and all the elite world leaders are a part of. Conveniently, right as everyone's hyping up monkeypox, monkeypox, monkeypox. Like I see a bunch of people freaking out about it.
Yep.
It's convenient. And I believe this treaty, now I don't know all the details. I'm looking at a Forbes article right now as we speak that it's running from May 22nd to May 28th. So it starts tomorrow and it goes
Okay.
a whole week. They're talking about how the countries were not united with COVID and that's why so many people died, which I don't believe it. They need, I love this isn't concerning. Despite the clear need for more global coordination, some politicians, celebrities, and a bunch of social media accounts have been trying to argue against this treaty. They even started a hashtag stop the treaty because having an independent nation is no good anymore. We must all conform to one global organization. You might as well call it the New World Order. Just go with the name. Everyone knows it already. Come on, people. All right.
So they're gonna so now so basically I wonder if the reasoning is gonna be we've gone through the song and dance with the COVID virus, and there was a bunch of countries that there was two sides to it about, one that everybody had to be locked away and shut down. The other half of the argument was that people needed to be more free. And because of that division among groups, that caused however many deaths of people. So, because we've gone through that once, we're not going to go through it again. In the event that some other virus, monkey pox or whale pox or something pops up. So we're going to make it a rule that no matter what the country says, this is what's going to happen because the United States is now involved in the WHO. So therefore, we're going to put forth rules and a whole bunch of what's the word?
Regulations, guidelines.
Regulations. Thank you. Yes, guidelines that if something else happens, we will declare it a pandemic, world emergency. Therefore, everything that has to be done with your personal freedom given to you by your country's laws don't matter because you're part of the World Health Organization now, and this affects the world.
Yeah. Here's another quote from this, and whoever wrote this article, I believe, based on this writing, would be a communist, and I'd like them to defend that accusation. Okay, so he goes on saying, picture a football team running onto the field for a championship game with no real plan, no real strategy, no real agreement to play together, and certain players saying, I will do whatever I want with the ball because freedom. So now freedom's a bad thing. We can't be free. There's no more freedom. No, you don't get to be free anymore. You don't get to live your own life. You don't get to worship your own God. You don't get to live in America, which was founded to be free. That's gone because of a little sniffle cold. And now apparently a monkey disease is coming back. So,
well, it's because you can say whatever you want. You can decide whatever you want about yourself. But if the decision is affecting other people, that's when it becomes dangerous. Like there's nothing that we do now that is dangerous to other people.
Yeah,
texting and driving and eating
just
while
driving.
And yeah, I mean, there's a million things we do every single day that risks our well-being in our lives a lot more than a virus does. But because of the virus and because it has such impact on the world, freedom can't be applied because how can you have freedom when it affects my freedom? That's what they're going to say.
But then if that's the mindset, then there is no freedom at all.
Well, no, there is. It's only when it's convenient for them. You can be free when you pick your own gender, And if you want to be called Zay and Houdini and whatever else you want to be called, that's freedom. You can have freedom because that's you. But you shouldn't be able to do whatever the health organization says you should do, because that's going to affect other countries and therefore the world. We're on this one planet together. We need to all be under the same thought process.
And there's a guy who also thought like that. Do you remember him? He lived in like the 30s and 40s. He united a nation.
Yeah, there's Mao and there's Stalin and there's Hitler and there's a whole bunch of people.
One of them gassed and burned 6 million Jews, and the other turned himself into a deity where kids in China's classrooms had to worship a picture of him. But there's nothing wrong with that mindset. Nothing can go wrong. We're past that. The evil communists and the evil fascists and the evil right-wing dictators, because they were all right-wing dictators. Fun fact, none of them were. They're all gone. And now we're in the nice leftist utopia where boys can be girls and girls can be boys. And I can have 55 different genders based on what I feel like. And if you call me the wrong pronoun, I can put you in jail. Man, I'm fired up. What's wrong with me?
There was speaking of that, there was a where was this? I may have to look this up. But there was a I don't know how old he was, like, I don't know, 10, 12, a boy in school whose principal called his parents to say that there were being sexual harassment charges filed against their son because he used the wrong pronouns for another student.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I think I saw that.
I don't know where that was. I don't know if that was Illinois or New York. I forget where.
This commie state I live in.
But it's just, yeah, it's part of that. And speaking of that, speaking of this whole issue that we all have to be together and all have to be one being and everything has to be the same, I think that it's, I was watching an ad that came up about how more women need to be entrepreneurs and how the world would be a better place if we had more women entrepreneurs. Now, I have nothing against entrepreneurship. I think it's great. If I could, I would do that. And I don't think that has any kind of barrier as to whether you should be a man or female. But I think the whole idea is dangerous. Not that women should be entrepreneurs, but that it's a negative that there are not more women being entrepreneurs. Not because entrepreneurship doesn't apply to the females, but because now you're talking about it's a negative that it's not 50-50. It's a negative that there are men being a certain role or a certain occupation over women. And so now the talk gets to, well, we need to have more women entrepreneurs. Why? Because it would be better for people. Well, okay, why aren't there? And that's the question I would say. Why aren't there more women entrepreneurs? Well, I think it's the same way as if, you're an accountant. If I asked you, why aren't you an engineer? I mean, your answer would be, I don't want to be.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
You chose to be an accountant. Okay, well, why aren't there more women entrepreneurs? Maybe it's because women just don't want to be entrepreneurs as much as men do. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why women choose different occupations and degrees and just vocations in general than men do. Yeah. But when you start talking about we need to have more women do X because we need to even out the statistics of there being more men than more women, that sets a precedence of, well, it's in the occupation, whatever it is, in this instance, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is desecrating this country and it's evil because more men are controlling the space than women, and we need to balance it out to have a perfect world. And what that does is that it goes along with feminism about how men are evil and they control everything. I mean, I've heard a bunch of people say that this is a male-dominated society, that in terms of Western civilization, men have dominated for however many years. And you ask them, well, why is that? And they say, well, look at all the CEOs and the Fortune 500 companies are owned by men. Okay, you're taking a handful of men and applying that to the whole Western civilization and how that's formed and how this is an evil dominated society by men. And it's evil because men are controlling women. What law says that women can't do anything that a man can do? There's nothing.
There's not. I mean, not in America, not in the only true free country. That's for sure.
Right. And so now you're talking about, okay, well, is this a male dominated society? I don't know. In the last 200 years, men are more likely to commit suicide. Men are more likely to die in wars. Men don't live as long on the job. Men are more likely to die outside. More men commit suicide. I don't know if I said that. More men are incarcerated. More men are homeless. So what's the dominant side? Just because there's 50 rich men in the top 51 rich people in America,
Yeah.
I just think it's dangerous when you talk about that, because women don't view men in the same way that they should. Men are evil. Well, I'm going to spend my whole life trying to equal a man when they don't have a family. Then they don't have that prosperity and the joy that a family brings. And you're just attacking that whole belief system that getting married and having a family is a wonderful thing, because now that's frowned upon. If you get married, if a woman grows up in America today and they aspire to be a stay-at-home mom,
they're called the deadbeat, lazy, easy way out.
They're not living up to their full potential. They could be doing so many more things much better. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's funny you said that. I shared something on Facebook. I saw an interesting post. It says a boyfriend and girlfriend move in with each other in their mid-20s. Nobody bats an eye. Boyfriend and girlfriend get married in their mid-20s. Everybody loses their ever-loving minds, because our society is marriage and family is it's not good. You know, you need to like slow down. You need to reconsider it. You know, are you really happy? Yes. That's why, like some people, I'll be honest, I won't name names. They said I got engaged too quickly. I dated my wife for 9 months. I had already known her for over 2 years, but I dated her officially for 9 months and I proposed. Several people said that was probably a little too fast. I said, why? And they had no answer. Because our society is so warped and so programmed, thanks to third wave feminism and the complete indoctrination and dumbing down of America, which is the public schooling system. They thought, well, why don't you just date for 2 years? Because it doesn't matter. But yeah, it does. I want to marry her. I want to commit forever. That's what you're supposed to do. But it's several people, and that's just one like anecdotal example of what you're saying, that marriage and having a family is basically looked down upon in today's society.
Well, then it's like, you can date somebody, but how do you really know if that person is the one that you're supposed to be married to forever? Well, just by dating them, that's not enough. Now you have to live together before you get married to see if you really want to spend the rest of their time with them.
You can't date with a purpose or actually figure out and use your brain and figure out if someone's meant to be with you or not. It's, at least for me, it's hard once I started dating my wife. Like,
if you take that idea and say, I'm dating so and so, and I don't know if I want to marry her, but to find out if I do, I'm going to live with her.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what that means and what the difference of you living together or just dating them. So now the marriage is based upon one thing.
Yep.
So, well, that's not good, because what happens if, I don't know, heaven forbid she's in a car accident, it's disabled, or there's a sickness or anything? I mean, the whole reason you got married was, we lived together for a couple months and I found out at A, B, C, and D. That's why I want to get married. It had nothing to do with how she feels, how I act around her, how she feels with my family, our interests, anything. It all has to do with this one thing. And you're almost considered foolish, or like you said, jumping the gun, if you don't live together with somebody before you get married, because how do you know? You can't see them every other day and talk to them every day.
Yeah,
and that's all you know. You have to find out.
In the age of technology, where you can literally talk to somebody all day who lives like 6,000 miles away from you, it's impossible to know someone well enough in 9 months. That will grind my gears for many years to come, when how people reacted when I got engaged to my wife. But that's another story.
I mean, it all goes back to the same thing about how it's all based on one thing, but also because, well, why are you dating somebody it's because you are hopefully in a place where you're ready to get married. Okay, well, then you have situations where two people are dating for like 5, 10 years. And then you ask them, why'd you date so long? Oh, we weren't ready. I wanted to focus on my career. We weren't financially set. We had these debts to pay off. We were still in school. Well, then you probably shouldn't be dating because you're not ready.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I know there's a statistic that, it's a high percentage of people get divorced that live together before they're married. And that now
Like
there's
60%, I
yeah,
think.
but the reason there's no main like factor or reason why that is. At least we don't really know. There's a bunch of assumptions, but there is an obvious glaring need to say that maybe you shouldn't get married until you know the right person,
Yeah.
and until you're absolutely sure. And if you run the table and you risk living with her before you get married, well, there's a statistic that says this is not a favorable outcome.
This is a good point, and let me know what you think. I think that third wave feminism was solely designed to destroy the nuclear family, because the people, the powers that be, and even back in the 60s and 70s, the nuclear family meant less reliance on government. Because if you have good mothers and good fathers who raise good kids, the cycle continues, and they work hard, they save their money, they make smart decisions, and they don't rely on the government, and they can't be bought and sold and controlled. So I think that the government for the last 60 years, through movements like third wave feminism and the LGBTQ, shoving that down our throats and all these other things, I think it was to destroy the nuclear family. What do you think? Because that's what I see when I hear all this stuff about feminism and women need to work more and less kids, no marriage. Yeah,
for sure. I would say too, I know the answer to this, but what was the most prosperous time between the 1920s and now in America?
Wasn't it after World War II?
Yeah, exactly. It was like between 1945 and 1960. Okay, well, why was that? Well, there wasn't a need to go to college as much unless you were going to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Yep.
Which meant no student debt, no reliance on government to pay your school. Yep. Women didn't have to work outside the home because you could go to high school and you could get a factory job or a job at a business. You didn't need a 4-year degree.
To be an accountant with a high school degree.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think houses back then in the late 1940s, a new house was like $19,000. Now it's like on average $302,000. So you could start a family at 19, 20 years old. You could save. You could
invest if you wanted to.
Exactly. So, but now it's totally flipped. Why? Because you can't go to high school, and unless you're an entrepreneur, or unless you invent something, or unless you have some kind of business that is sustainable for a long period of time, if you go to high school, you have to go to college or some graduate schooling, like a plumber, the trades. You got to, plumber,
electrician, carpenter.
You have to go to some sort of schooling in order to make a living, and it's because schools are extremely expensive and unnecessarily expensive, which is another issue. There's $1.1 trillion in student debt, so people rely on the government to pay for their school, which also means that they don't learn the work ethic of, if I want to go to school,
I got to pay for it.
But nobody can lend me the money. I have to actually work. I've heard people say that it's impossible to work full time and go to school. That's a bunch of baloney. People do it every day.
I worked 2 part-time jobs. I had 20 hours of student athlete commitment every week, and I took 18 credit hours every semester. You can do it.
It can be done. But now, so it increases the laziness factor. And so to answer your question, all these things were done to decrease the population with the amount of families that were being started, and the encouragement to start a family and the nobleness that came with being a mom or a dad is gone.
And I also think now this is kind of debated over all Christianity, but in Catholicism there's no debate, and this is maybe not for all children. Artificial contraception coming out in the 50s. I think that was intentional to destroy the family. because now even Ben Shapiro talks about this. Now, I don't think Ben Shapiro is against artificial contraception, but I could be wrong on that. He said it separated the act of procreation from procreation. And he said that
Right.
that's a major destruction to the nuclear family. And he said it's not a coincidence that things like Roe v. Wade and artificial contraception come around, and family and fertility and birth rates have been going down. And again, that leads to a less prosperous nation, especially when the society teaches you don't get married, do whatever you want, literally, and that'll make you happy. Like,
it just all comes down to one word, and it's responsibility. There's a
yeah,
lack of responsibility. You don't have to, even if you go out and have a good time and you end up committing committing
yes,
and you have a child. Well, now
happen. Yes.
you don't have to be that in that child's life. It's, I don't want anything to do with that. I didn't plan on doing that, so therefore I don't have to, I'll just do my own thing. There's a lack of responsibility. There's a lack of responsibility to pay your own bills. You need help from everybody else. There's no work ethic. It all ties into the same thing, and it's all in this umbrella and this degressing pyramid of the goal is to lessen the value of the family. How are we going to do that? By X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
And it's worked because in the last 50 years we've seen a steady decline in stay-at-home moms and more women in the workforce. Now, I'm not saying that that's directly correlated to the idea that we're going to break down the American family, but like you said, with feminism, to input the idea that it's a waste of your life to be a stay-at-home mom or to have children at a young age or have a family in any capacity. Well, that is a huge factor in why more women decide to spend 30, 40 years competing with men and trying to be the same as them. And it's just, and it goes back to what I was saying before. We have to make everything about every single occupation the same from women to men. It's got to be the exact same, because that's just going to make the world a better place. When in fact it doesn't. The more you give people the opportunity to go against the grain, like women, for instance, they become teachers and nurses and psychologists a lot more often than men do. Well, men become engineers and they become construction workers and they become bricklayers a lot more often than women do. Well, if you take those three occupations and try to force it on men, they end up going more away from it. If you take the three jobs, construction, and you take engineering, and you take bricklaying, to women, the more they go away from it, then the more they will become nurses and teachers and psychologists and liberal arts majors and that kind of thing. So you cannot bring everything together. It's impossible. Women are different than men, regardless of what they call themselves or gender they identify as. It's all different. And the more you try to push them to be equal, the further apart they're going to become.
Yeah. And these little tangents we're going on, I think one way to tie it together is what we're seeing now is we are directly going against the natural law of humanity, that men are men and women are women. Since the dawn of time, there has been biological instincts, right? The man provides, he hunts, he gathers. The woman protects, the woman nurtures, the woman cares. These are natural things, right? No one ever had to tell you to be protective. You just were, right? If I'm wrong, stop me. But I'm the oldest of 8 siblings, so I have 7 younger siblings. If somebody did something to them, I was like, all right, where are they at? Like that. Then no one ever taught me that. That was just it. That was just in my DNA. Right. Now that I'm married, if someone says something to my wife or I find out someone did something, I'm like, okay, who wants to get something? There's natural things that we are trying to distort, and I think that's intentional because there's beauty in nature because God created all nature. So if we follow God's law with his natural law, we will find a sense of peace on this earth.
Right.
And we're completely distorting it to where women need to be the breadwinners. And there's a new thing now, stay-at-home dads. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Right. I mean,
are you kidding me? Now, there's always exceptions.
Right.
But
Exactly.
they are not the
Exactly.
rule.
No.
Like they're not the rule, but there can be exceptions. Like if a woman is like a professional athlete, and she's really, really good at what she does, I can see there being a stay-at-home dad if she's had if they've had a few kids together.
Yeah.
But like the general rules would coincide with natural law that men are supposed to lead, and the woman is supposed to follow and be his equal, but they do different things better. And to be a good team, at least like I learned in sports, you maximize your players' strengths. Not every
Mhm.
player had the same strengths.
Well,
Some
then it's like,
guys, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, it's just in that situation, yes, there are instances when you can't always follow the norm of the man going to work and being the
Yeah.
breadwinner and all that stuff. But if you have a situation, let's just say, man, a man and a woman go to college, they both get degrees, they both have jobs that are around the same pay as each other. Then they start a family.
Yep.
It's unnatural for them. Well, if the woman were to say, you know what, I really want to work. I really want to, I like what I do, and I think I have a good chance at going up the ladder.
Yeah.
It would be unnatural for the man to willingly say, yeah, you're right, I'll stay at home. Because they don't know what they're doing, essentially. When a woman gives birth, it's a learning curve, obviously, but much more of a learning curve for the man than it is for her. And it's like you were saying, it's part of her. She
Yes.
just, like the baby starts crying, she knows what to do.
Yep.
And it doesn't take long for her to learn anything else. She
Some of it
can sense exactly. But if a man does that, a man's like, what am I supposed to do? Do we feed it? Am I supposed to like put it to bed? I just put it
how do
down
I
for a
shut it
3-hour
up?
nap. Yeah. Do we pinky it? Do I give him some vodka? What do I do? Let me know. And that's the whole idea. Is it's because it's not their job essentially to take care of newborns and babies and to raise them, because babies that know nothing about nothing know that the mother is the one to go to. Why? Well, because they were a part of the mother for 9 months and they heard the mother's voice and movement and everything more than anybody else. So they connect with them on a whole different level. So it would be unnatural for a man to say, oh yeah, I'll stay at home, it's all good, don't worry about it. Because then it's like, well, then what kind of woman is she being okay with the man not being a man and saying, no, that's my worry. You don't worry about that. You stay home. I got this. Don't worry about it. Now, if the children get older, sure, whatever you want to do. But I mean, that initial stage of the child's life, they each have their roles and you have to follow it.
And again, there are always exceptions to the rule. I don't want anyone to like misunderstand, though we will if we ever become popular enough and the opposition gets a hold of this. We will get called. Yeah, when
allegedly.
Allegedly, the people opposing us will call us women haters, and we want women in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant, all that other stupid fake garbage that gets spewed about any guy who wants to just have a traditional family. There's always exceptions. And I think it's also interesting, and this is something else I heard from Ben Shapiro. Do you know why we give the kids the father's last name?
No.
Originally, it was because there was no other really defining way to show that kid belonged to the dad. Because the woman, it's easy. The woman was biologically connected to the child.
Oh, yeah. I think
the name was because of the man. So,
see, feminists will say that along, not that, but they will say that the child gets the last name of the man because, and this is the same way they also say for why women take the name of the man when they get married, is because it's predicated upon an old-fashioned world where women couldn't own property and couldn't own anything themselves, because this is, again, a male-dominated society. So they had to take the name of a man, and it was just how men showed their dominance and ownership over women, which is completely stupid.
Yeah,
but it's just that's another way for them to twist it.
That's another. Let's stay on this topic for a second. Have you ever read? I believe it's one of St. Paul's epistles, where he talks about marriage.
Yeah.
Do you remember there's one line, and I don't care what translation you use, this is what it says. It says, wives, submit to your husbands.
Yeah.
Do you
Mhm.
know how many times people have attacked me for that statement?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I can only imagine.
And then I said, well, if you read the next line, if you just use your eyes to go one sentence further, it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved his church. And
Hmm.
for anyone with two brain cells who know about Christianity, Christ died in the most brutal, unjust way for his church.
Hmm.
So if a wife is supposed to submit to the husband's supposed to return the favor by dying for her if necessary.
Right. I
I,
know.
I I think it's just and feminists use that because they're anti-Christian too, especially anti-Catholic. They're
Yeah.
very much because of realistically, that's the two things that get thrown at me all the time is that women are supposed to stay home, which is that yes, that is what the Catholic Church teaches in counseling. I was just in it 7 months ago.
Hmm.
Um, and that wives are supposed to submit. That's not the submission that people associate with. They called it one time like modern day, like the same as slaves in America. It's like just stop
Reparations.
yeah, just stop it. Like
Yeah, I know.
so
Well, it's just there's an agenda behind it, and they're going to keep pushing it. Why? Well, because people will believe it. They believe what you believe what you want to hear. You know.
well, your perception is reality. That's something I've also
Yep.
heard a lot is that if you perceive that all men are evil and like you've had one offshoot experience of a guy being a jerk, all men are evil now in
All
your
men are
mind.
jerks. Yep. You're
Yeah.
never going to meet anybody that's not like
Hmm.
that.
Yep.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
true.
Well, this was a fun episode. Got a little intense throughout the
Very
entire time.
cheerful.
Yeah, very good, uplifting. So if you're in a good mood, it's right now like a gloomy, rainy day here while I'm recording. So if you want something to fit the mood of a gloomy, rainy day, turn on this episode. Do you want to plug all of our stuff again before we wrap it up?
Oh, geez. I just um, the use of this content without the express written consent of the NBA. I mean,
The
what do we call it? Accepting reality
media.
dissemination is prohibited through the laws of the World Health Organization.
Got it. Nailed it. Yeah. All right. Well, you can find DJ Media on YouTube, Facebook,
Right,
Twitter.
right,
We are on Apple Podcasts and
right.
Spotify, just as Accepting Reality.
Uh-huh.
If
Are we on
you
eHarmony?
eHarmony, isn't that a
That's a dating site.
yeah?
We
Why
should
would,
we should give. Well, listen. If we're trying to, we're trying to help people.
should we
Put
get try
this
to get?
episode on an ad in eHarmony because they're trying to find relationships. And we're trying to. This will show if a woman was like on eHarmony, like I'm gonna find a man so that I can go back to work and he can take care of the kids. Uh, she's from Louisiana. Okay, deal with it. And then she
Or
listens to.
Ben?
She's like looking. She's like Jerome and Isaiah. Mm-mm. Oh, what is this accepting reality? I'm gonna listen to this podcast, and then she listens to it, and then she's like, I don't want to go to work anymore. I want to take home and stay with the kids.
All right. Well, eHarmony sponsor us. We'll reach out later. Oh, let's plug that again after that because I don't even know how to go forward with that. We are again DJ Media on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. YouTube, we upload the full podcast, and we're going to start uploading highlights of the podcast for all you people who can't have an attention span of more than 5 minutes.
Hey,
The
which
full
is squirrels,
podcast.
ADD.
Yep.
Please.
The podcasts are also available on Spotify and Apple and Amazon. So thank
Her,
you everybody for listening.
her name is
And
Yolanda, by the way,
oh,
on
okay,
eHarmony.
good.
Yeah.
eHarmony. Okay. You've built this whole story up in the last minute and a half. Well, again, thank you so much for listening. If you like it, please share it around with everybody and have a good rest of your day.